Welcome to Thriving at the Beach podcast. I'm Peggy Masterson, and I'm delighted to be your host. I am the director of the Partnership Grand Strand Foundation, and in case you haven't heard about us, we are the nonprofit foundation that is an extension of the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce. Partnership Grand Strand was created by local businesses to serve local businesses, and we serve everyone across all 14 communities that we often and fondly call the Grand Strand. Our work puts us in a unique situation where we get the opportunity to collaborate and support many of the organizations that are busy building a better tomorrow in our area. This gives us a wonderful opportunity to collect the details surrounding these growth initiatives and then share them with you. That's really why we created this podcast. There's so much amazing work, we just had to find a way to get it out to you. I could not be more excited to be able to facilitate a way for our guests to tell you their stories, to share the initiatives that they're working on, and give you a peek under the tent on what's coming to our community. I hope you'll catch this wave of momentum and then share it with others. So let's dive right in. So welcome to our newest episode of Thriving at the Beach. We're super glad that you're here today. And as you know, our primary goal with Thriving at the Beach is to get you excited about the future of the Horry County area and all of the surrounding communities that make up the Grand Strand. The way we go about doing that is by giving you the opportunity to meet some of the people that are busy working behind the scenes to power our success. And today's show is all about the importance of education as well as personal and professional development. Our guest today is Dan Hoppe. He is the president and lead consultant for his own firm, which is Hop2it Consulting. And we are super excited to have him here because his primary focus has been and will always be, I think, education and personal development. So, Dan, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you, Peggy. I'm so excited. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So, Dan's one of those people that are driving things for us behind the scenes. And I want to start off by telling you a little bit about him. He is originally an Ohio boy. He actually has a bachelor's of education, master's in organizational management, his doctorate in education, and in leadership studies. So as you can see, he is very well educated. We absolutely have no concerns of his capability as it relates to being educating our youth and our small businesses in this area. So let's see. He's also had some work or some opportunity to work and support in the nonprofit space. He is the leader in terms of the training that's taking place right now with Leadership Grand Strand. And he has also been on the Leadership Grand Strand Board of Regents in the past. So he is also serving his community as it relates to this and other boards that he sits on here in the area. When he's not busy educating or helping individuals with personal development, he is a pretty handy guy from what I can tell, likes to do home improvement projects. He is a grill master. I'm going to say that up front, even though it might be an exaggeration. He likes to grill.
A little bit.
And when he's not busy with those things, he obviously wants to spend time with his family, his wife, Heather, and his 3 children, Danny, Hannah, and Sam. And then he also has 2 dogs, and that's Maxie and Minnie. So there you have it, a little bit of background about Dan. He is a individual that absolutely loves Christmas. I hear that the Hoppe Christmas starts like in mid-October.
It does.
And runs right through the first of the year. I have to come by and see your house based on what you've said here. You've got 9 Christmas trees and 40 inflatables that take place.
Yeah, it's they're not the inflatables. Those, I remember, Peggy, the old school hard plastic. They light up. They were called blow molds from like the 60s and 70s. Yeah, we've got quite a few of those. They dance to music as you drive by the house. I keep busy in the Christmas season, that's for sure.
That's awesome. Who doesn't love Christmas, right? So as we kind of segue and talk about your role as it relates to education and personal development, I wanted to see if you might kind of kick things off for us to give us your perspective in terms of why are education and things like personal development important for a community to have long-term prosperity?
Yeah, I think it's really important for an individual and organization to value education and professional development because it really forges the future of the organization, right? Like, if you really think about it, if somebody doesn't change or evolve, you're stagnant and it reflects your organization. So I think when you can constantly look at professional growth and development and what that means to the organization as a whole, that's where organizations can really see a real good change taking place. So, education and professional development is a way to drive change and opportunity. It opens the minds of new things that maybe you weren't even relevant to or know about, but it also validates some things at some time. So, again, to your point, I've been around education and PD the majority of my life. I've chosen to make a career out of it in so many ways because I do believe it really contributes to one's own success. And if one is successful, their organizations are successful.
Yeah, that is so true. And the other thing I think that happens when somebody learns a new skill or kind of has that aha moment is it's energizing. It's like forward momentum, and I think it catapults folks to accomplish things that they may not have otherwise thought possible.
Yeah, it does. Like I said, it goes back to, validating some things you might have already known about yourself, but when you learn something new and then you're able to practice that in the work environment, right? It re-energizes you to continuously want to do good for that company and that business. So again, I think that's just a sidebar benefit of that, right?
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about the work that you're doing with the Leadership Grand Strand cohort. Is that new this year? Is that the first year you've worked with them?
It is.
Okay.
So I've been a part of Leadership Grand Strand. That was my first introduction to the area when I was part of Class 39. I was only here about 15 months when I got involved with Leadership Grand Strand, and it really opened the door for my love for this community. The Chamber's been great. Partnership Grand Strand's been great. It has really validated my why in so many ways. But yes, the opportunity to serve as the leadership trainer kicked in this August, and we have loved every minute of it. It's a great class. We have great topics that we focus on with them, and we're already starting to see that impact and them being able to utilize the things that we're talking about and making those impactful differences.
Well, that's exciting, especially it's got to be gratifying from the kind of educator perspective to see the sparks fly and to see things actually happening for the students.
It is. It's one thing to see something like that in a traditional classroom environment. I still teach part-time at Tech and Coastal, but it's another thing to take a group of professionals in a non-traditional classroom environment and witness some of those same successes.
So in addition to kind of leadership and personal development training, I know that Hop2it Consulting is also doing some work with strategic planning, small business education, as well as youth leadership. And I thought maybe you might be able to tell us a little bit about some of those projects that you're working on and how you think they're going to fuel our long-term growth.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of the concept of strategic planning. As you mentioned, my master's degree is in organizational development and strategic planning because I really do believe it's how an organization identifies their realm of possibility. And we kind of use that term quite a bit. It's one thing to kind of take a look at, this is who I am today. It's another thing to say, what can I be tomorrow? And we call that gap analysis. So how do we get from point A to point B? And, we've really kind of created a formula, if you will, where the organization gets a chance to historically look at where they've been, which helps them understand where they got to where they're at. And then that helps them realize those realms of possibility. We've done quite a few strategic plans locally with a lot of the local nonprofit organizations. I have a real heart for that. And so being able to work with them and helping them realize the climate of nonprofits is very different today than it was 5, 7, 10 years ago, both from a funding perspective, an awareness perspective, even a self-identity of who we are and the impact we're making on our community. And so, a strategic planning process like what we facilitate helps them really hone in on what their differences are, what their services are, what the impact is they're making, and how do they grow that to benefit the community. So, you speak to how does strategic planning benefit the community? It makes those organizations that much better. It allows them to identify the the services that they can enhance or change or grow to, again, making that impactful difference on the community. And we've done some similar work with some of our small businesses as well. And not so much on maybe a full strategic planning scale, although we're capable of doing that, but more of an organizational review, a quick review of our policy, our procedure, how we function as an organization, and what adjustments we can make to find those efficiencies and run better.
Wonderful. And, when we're talking about the fact that businesses or organizations and people can get better as a result of that kind of thing, it's so foundational. It just makes sense, right? That if we actually excel in the things that we may already be pretty good at, that it's only going to fuel the economy and fuel the long-term prosperity of the area. So it just makes sense.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about the project that you're currently working on right now for small business education.
Yeah, so I was real excited to partner with Partnership Grand Strand on a project that we're working on right now that we're kind of unofficially calling the Small Business Accelerator Program. And it's a chance for small business owners and employees, if they choose to send them to the program, to really hone in on understanding kind of, again, where they're at on a few things and how they can grow and change. And we're talking pretty key topics, things like workforce, recruitment and retention. How is it we're able to find the right folks we need to hire? And then more importantly, if we get the right folks, how do we keep them, right? We want to make sure that they're engaged with our organization. We want them to understand why strategic thinking and planning is important. Again, it's one thing to kind of understand this is where I'm at, but Peggy, as you know as well as I do, small business owners get so busy in the day-to-day, they don't have time to necessarily think about these big picture things, and yet we know how important it is for their growth and the opportunity for them to evolve as companies. And so this particular program is going to allow these small business owners to come in, a 6-week program that will weekly give them the topics and the hands-on resources to make impactful differences within their company. And the goal is after the 6-week program, they're going to be able to see and witness those changes that they're able to implement. And I'm real excited to be able to partner with you guys on that and really see where we can make those impactful differences for our small business.
Well, and we feel the same way. We're so fortunate to have you willing to partner with us because the years of expertise that you have had in that realm of not only the education but the development side of things, I think will make for a pretty impactful program, and that's the goal. We'll definitely have to have you back after you and maybe some of the students complete the program to kind of talk about it. And this will be our pilot program, so we expect to have some learning along the way, but we are committed to doing what it takes to drive the small business development initiatives across any business that's interested. So anybody that's listening, I would encourage you to watch our website and consider coming yourself or sending someone in your organization.
And Peggy, one other thing about that I think is so imperative is that the program is structured in such a way where not only are you going to have a facilitator, myself, who's going to share, theories and resources, but there's going to be a real chance for collaboration and a chance for the participants to work with one another. You have multiple industries that come in, and who knows where those synergies can take place, where they can benefit from one another. And so if these organizations are participating in the program and they're walking away with resources, new knowledge, new collaborations, it's a win all the way around. So I think more importantly, that piece of it is so exciting to me as well.
And I know that we have just recently made the decision to really kind of power up a mentoring aspect of this program. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think it's, again, one thing for people to come in and kind of get that one-off training once a week. It's another thing to give them a resource in the community that's been there, that's been in the trenches, that has experienced the kind of things that we're going to be introducing to them or validating for them, right? And so knowing that they have that go-to person locally that can help them think through something a little differently. I was really considering growth in this area, or I was really thinking of trying this level of service. What do you think? What does your experiences say? And lining them up with the right people that can serve as that mentor, not only through the program, but the hope would be even after the 6-week program's done, we can continue that level of mentoring model with our participants.
I'm super excited about that. I think everybody that's honest with themselves, that's been in the workforce, can think back to that one or two people across the way that really made a difference in your career, that mentor, whether they were formally called that or not. And I think that's when the real learning
Well,
takes
I'll give you a
place.
great example of that. And I'm sure he's not listening because I think he's in Oklahoma these days. But I had a very early in my career, and I always tell folks when I give presentations or I meet with people, if you talk to 22-year-old Dan, it'd be a very different story than the almost 50-year-old Dan you're talking to now, right? But early in my career, I had an employer who was kind of a rough guy to work for. He had a certain way he wanted things done. He had a certain expectation around maybe even how I dress or how I speak. And, at the time, it was one of those deals where I who's this guy think he is telling me how to do these kind of things, right? But I tell you what, Peggy, as I look back, he probably was the biggest role model and the biggest mentor because, when I walk into a meeting, even to this day, I think about, all right, am I dressed professionally? Am I in the right environment as far as how I look, with the things I'm going to say? All of the things that he told me back in my early mid-20s, I still think of those things today. So to your point, mentoring is something we benefit in our early career. I still benefit today from that mentoring relationship.
Yeah, it just
that I
sticks
had.
for
It
some
does.
reason. It just does.
Yeah, it does.
And I know that you're also working with us on some youth-related programs. And I want to, before we talk about the program we're building, I wanted to see if you could share with our listeners a little bit about the work that you have been doing in the Horry County schools with the
Students in Action.
Students in Action,
Yeah.
yes.
So historically, prior to me doing Hop2it full time, I worked with a nonprofit organization that unfortunately is no longer in existence, but it was Multiplying Good, and they specifically had a program that was called Students in Action. And this was a program where we focused on service in the community, and we also focused on some of those soft skills, leadership skills that we know students had. And essentially, we facilitated around the entire state of South Carolina 10 conferences a year where we would bring in approximately 100 to 150 students at each conference, and we would give them training around leadership. We would give them the opportunity to interact and engage with panelists that focused on service and why it's so important to give back to your community. And each of these teams or these schools that participated worked toward a service project where they made impactful differences in the community. To your point, unfortunately, that organization doesn't exist anymore. And so my heart is with our youth. I know it's a little bit of a cliche, but they really are our future. When you think about it, they literally are our future, right? And at the same time, leadership is such a key. You talk about some passions I have. Strategic thinking is clearly one of them. That's where a lot of my background is. But I think my biggest passion is leadership and good leadership, right? So, when I get in front of a group of people, I will ask the question, who here has witnessed good leadership? And a handful of people will raise their hand. And then I piggyback with, all right, now who's witnessed bad leadership? And almost everybody's hand goes up, right? Because we all can think of that one experience we had where we witnessed bad leadership.
Yep.
Well, what if we could flip that? What if we got to the point when we asked that question, we had a lot more people raising their hand for good leadership and a lot less with bad. And our key to that is our youth, right? Exposing what good leadership looks like to them at an early age, giving them the skills and the hands-on experiences to utilize that. What does that mean for them in success in college or career right outside of high school? And what does that mean to the future of our community when we have built strong leaders at that youth stage, right? And that really has prompted this idea that we've been working on collaboratively with PGS as far as some youth leadership opportunity.
Yeah. So what we're looking to do is actually engage with the Horry County schools to identify some students that have illustrated leadership potential. They don't have to be the superstars in the class. They don't have to be the 4.0 GPA students, but those that have really illustrated the ability to lead and the desire, honestly, to lead. So we're excited about pulling an entire curriculum together for a few days to get them out to coastal Carolina, and more details to follow as it relates to that. But I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that Dan has been instrumental in helping us pull that together. And what I love about the work that you have done in the past with Students in Action is that you have a good pulse because on the student in terms of kind of what's their starting point, what kind of things would they engage around, where have you seen leadership programming work. So we're really excited to be able to work together on that and develop a program that I think can change the trajectory of an individual's life at that age.
And the other thing that I love about this program that is a little different than Students in Action is not only are we focusing on leadership, but we're also focusing on that concept of workforce readiness, right? And so, when you think about the amazing companies that we have right here in the Grand Strand, at the end of the day, we want these students either A, to stay here, or B, if they go off to college elsewhere, we want them to come back. And so,
surely.
Aside from just the great leadership training and the skills that we're going to give them, we want to give them exposure to what workforce opportunities look like right here in Horry County. And that way we get them a little excited about what that potential looks like for them when they finish high school or they go on to college and finish that opportunity. Come on back here. Let's come back to Horry, Georgetown County. Let's come back to the Grand Strand, and let's make some impactful differences while partnering with the workforce that we have here.
Yeah, well said. Good point. Well, I know that you have been around this area for 6-7 years.
9. It'll be 9 years.
Yeah, my goodness.
I know.
I wanted to kind of wrap things up and kind of bring us home in the conversation to give us your perspective, if you will, Dan, on how you feel about the direction that the Horry County and Grand Strand area is taking, any sense of progress that you can see and identify. We're trying to make sure that folks that have had a longer term perspective get an opportunity to share with those that may not have what's different and what kind of momentum, if you see momentum, is actually happening. So what's your thought on that?
Well, I will tell you, it definitely is grown and changed even a lot in the 9 years since we first moved here. And I think that's an amazing thing. Like, I think Horry County is the largest populated or growing population county, I think, in the nation. They're pretty close to it from what I heard.
Yep.
I think that says a couple different things. One, first and foremost, it means this is a place people want to be. And that's an important thing, which means that opens a door for a lot of opportunity, right? The opportunity for maybe new industry. It's never going to take away from the fact we have some amazing tourist opportunities here, right? I mean, that's how we found it, right? We vacationed here for years. We would drive past coastal Carolina on our way back to Ohio, and we always said, wouldn't it be nice? And guess what? It worked out just fine. And so, moving down this way. And so I think there's so much opportunity for growth and opportunity for change even yet still, right? The one thing that I think is one an opportunity for companies, especially small companies, and you and I talked about it a little bit this morning prior to the podcast, but I think it really comes down to organizations and businesses understanding that niche and where they can make that impactful difference, as opposed to kind of taking that broad stroke. I think when they identify opportunities to really take a niche of where they can make the differences in our community, again, we're growing so much, there's a need for what you have to offer, right? So that would be some advice I would have, right, for companies that might be looking at restructuring services or maybe defining new services. It's a great opportunity to do that, because when you can hone in on that niche, I think you're setting yourself up some wonderful success. And then the other side of that, it kind of sounds hypocritical based on what I just said. I think there's so much room for collaboration. And I think that's the great thing about PGS is you guys are opening the door for that collaboration for our businesses to come together and say, hey, well, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. Well, great. How can we work together? And I think PGS serves as a great bridge to bring those folks together and build on those collaborations. And I think the more industry finds opportunities for collaboration, they're going to find more success. It doesn't have to always be about competition. Sometimes collaboration is going to bring in more opportunity than you would think. And so that's, when I look at the Grand Strand, I see the tremendous growth and the direction things are going. That would be what I suggest, is that companies look at it where niches can be successful for them, and at the same time how they can look at more collaborative opportunities.
Yeah, and I thank you for the comment on Partnership Grand Strand, because really that's what we were created to do.
That's right.
Is really just be the convener and the connection point. And I don't have the same perspective because I don't have 9 years here,
Sure.
but from all the folks that I've spoken with, folks are feeling pretty positive right now, because I think where organizations, companies, whatever it may be, had worked in silos in the past, what we're seeing are some of those barriers starting to crumble, and individuals recognizing that, oh, we can really come together and we can get something accomplished maybe a little faster.
That's right.
And maybe even better if we do it together. And I think that's a kind of a cultural shift that I think takes time to actually be completely realized. But I do think, and most of the folks that we've spoken with in the podcast tend to say the same thing, and that I feel hopeful because people are starting to beat to the same drum and march in the same direction and play nice together. Those are all important things. So
yeah, and it's all about the relationships, right? Because again, somebody might not be a good fit for you, but if you've built the right relationships, that's where those handoffs can take place. And then when the opportunity presents itself where that other organization or company can kind of reciprocate that to you, that's where again we find a win all the way around. So I'm with you, Peggy. I think collaboration is the key to where folks are going to continue to find success.
Awesome. Yeah.
Well,
Dan, I can't thank you enough, not only for your partnership with us, but certainly the work that you're doing with Leadership Grand Strand to mold the future workforce and the individuals that will ultimately be driving our economy in this area. And I probably don't have to tell you, as a lifelong educator, that anybody that thinks that folks that are in the trenches doing the education work aren't valued is crazy, because it is the foundation of all things that lead to success, and that willingness and open to learning and willing to do what it takes to get that concept down or that skill, I think it's priceless. And thanks to folks like you for the efforts that you put forth to make that happen.
Yeah, and I tell you, it is so important, and I'm with you. I think educators need to have those kudos because they are making impactful differences. We talked a little bit about my family, and my son graduates from Clemson this year, and he's going to be a teacher. He committed to go teach down in Georgetown County because, again, he wants to come back this way, but more importantly, he wants to be a second grade teacher where he's making that impactful difference.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I'm with you. Education is so important at every level, whether we're talking at the elementary level or we're talking from a professional standpoint in career. It really is how we can truly evolve and ensure ongoing success for individuals.
Yeah, something nobody can take away from
you,
right? Once you learn it,
that's right.
You've got it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thanks again for your time today, and we'll have you back soon after you finish your first cohort in the Business Accelerator.
I'm excited. Thank you, Peggy, so much.
Thank you. Well, I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Dan as much as we did today. And I think we'll all agree that in order for us to build a strong economy, we need well-trained workforce and well-trained employers. And Dan is one of the key folks that is partnered with Partnership Grand Strand to make that happen. And I think it's super important that we never underestimate the importance of good quality education. Everyone learns a little differently. That's something we've discovered over recent weeks. And working with a consultant group like Hop2it Consulting provides the capability to build programming that meets the learning style for multiple groups. We all have kind of our own notion of how to convey information, but working with an expert gives you the opportunity to make sure that you're tailoring those messages to the needs of the individual groups that you're serving. For instance, young professionals are going to relate to information differently than a business owner that's been in business for, 15, 20 years. So we're grateful for that partnership. We will provide a link to Hop2it Consulting in our show notes. And we thank you for joining us today to hear a little bit about the work that's going on as it relates to educating small business and driving professional development across the Grand Strand. That's a wrap for this show. Remember to subscribe to the podcast so you'll never miss another episode. And until next time, be well, never stop learning, and keep thriving. Well, that wraps up our show for this week. I hope you've enjoyed the info that we've shared today. And if so, please be sure to follow the show so you don't miss any of our future updates. We also welcome any comments, shares, or reviews, but until next time, we hope you stay well and keep thriving.